welcome again, everyone, to part 2 of our GT4 League season review. I'm Quentin Boever, followed again by my co-host Olivier Bellanger.
Hello, good to see everyone again.
Yeah, good to see you too. Uh, it's just me here, but I
Well,
think
referring to the audience, our fans,
right, all around the world. That's right.
of course.
So, anyways. Let's just dive right into it here. We left off part one. We went through the first half of the season, which was the first 7 rounds. So I think we concluded that you were doing really well, and I was doing probably a little performing under my expectations a little bit. Let's just put it that way. Anyways, so we move on. The next round was round 8, obviously, and that was at Road Atlanta. Now, I want to say that obviously I love this track. In terms of sim racing, this feels like my home track. Just put so many laps around here. We were also practicing, you and I, for Petit Le Mans around the same time, the iRacing Petit Le Mans, obviously.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so we both had done a ton of laps, and of course that was in a GT3 car, but I think it was similar enough that it still made me feel very at home at the track, even in a GT4 car. How about you?
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because I feel like I felt the complete opposite where we had done so much practice in the GT3 preparing for Petit Le Mans, which I think was just a few days after this. Um, and so I felt so thrown off when I got in the GT4. And I don't know why. I just really was not able to adapt back to it quickly. Where I think you actually did. You did that really well. You adapted right back. And I definitely struggled basically the entire time. It was just because of how some things that we're going to see in the race played out that um, it ended up coming around a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah, I'd say even though you're saying this, I had more more of a struggle than you. But yeah, we'll get to that. We'll start off again, as always, with qualifying. And for, I believe, the first time in the entire season or history of the planet Earth, I outqualified you. So you slotted into P5, and I qualified in third position for the race here. And this was, do you remember, was this an hour-long race or a 45-minute one?
it was. I think it was an hour long race, and that's why I ended up playing out differently. I think than I expected at least going into it.
Right. Yep. It was an hour long. That's right. Crazy times. So, with that being said, let's try to get into it a little bit here. I do have a replay to share from the start of the race, so let me pull that up right now. And here we go. We can see the start of the race. Pretty big field showed up for this. A lot of people practicing for Petit Le Mans at the same time, I think. So everybody felt pretty close. The gaps were small throughout the field. You can see battling coming up to turn 3 here, side by side with some Mercs. Me just a couple spots ahead of you. Coming down the hill towards turn 5 and just about slotted in single file in time, so no huge incidents luckily on the opening lap. A lot of bouncing going on though. And so that kind of takes us through the start, and you can see it was a pretty frantic start from everybody, it looked like. I managed to somehow lose a place, so it looks like I went down to 4th at the start. And I think what you basically managed there was almost falling down to 7th, but getting back up to P6. So I guess we both lost a slot at the start of the race here. But nonetheless, it's an hour-long race, like we said. So plenty of time to catch back up to the rest of the field. And especially with it being an hour long, there's going to be different pit stop strategies, and one of the biggest things in this race, which we can start talking about now, fuel saving, right?
Oh yeah, the fuel save. Unfortunately, we had to do it again, but that's how it is sometimes, you know.
Right. So I got another replay here. This is lap 2. I believe these next few are basically you carving your way through the field and even past me, but let's take a look on board. Yeah, so we've got you on board coming down into 10A and just diving down the inside. And now you went from 4th to 3rd in that move. So I think there was a couple people that at some other point of lap 1 that we didn't get to show went off the circuit or got into a bit of a collision, because I'm up in 2nd place now at this point, and so you're just slotting in behind me in 3rd. Now at this point, I remember that I was thinking, oh, this is going to be great. I'll sit behind the leader here, just fuel save, and won't have to take as many or as big of pit stops. And what was your mentality? I'm assuming similar, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I still didn't really know if it was going to be a 1 or 2 stop, you know, at this point. And I remember, you know, I try to kind of gauge it on what everyone else is doing, because at the end of the day, if everyone's going all out and they're not fuel saving, then, you know, it's usually then too big of a loss, especially at the start of the race, to already begin fuel saving, you know. But at these early stages, we still had time to kind of figure out, and we could adjust, you know, our strategy based on how everything else played out. So I was thinking about that, and this was kind of the point where I was like, okay, do I need to, you know, really begin to substantially fuel save to make it a 1 stop, or is everyone else going to just push and, you know, everyone does a 2 stop?
Right. Yeah, meanwhile, I was just thinking, as long as I stay in the draft of the leader here, I can fuel save as much as possible while sort of maintaining that gap and just see how it plays out from there. So let's move on. We've got another replay coming up here of lap 5, and look what's going on here. So here you are again, a few laps later, and I guess you just got tired of sitting behind me. I had done my job. I was still sitting behind the leader, getting a decent draft from them, fuel saving. But I guess you wanted to be a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this stage, I was fuel saving, and you know, what felt fairly drastically actually, and I still had a lot of pace, which was super unexpected. As you could see in that first clip earlier, the amount of bouncing that this car was doing at this track was making it quite bad over 1 lap, but I guess, I don't know, the long run it was okay. So yeah, so I kind of went for it. You know, I was on the radio with Quentin, telling him, you know, what did I tell you? I think I was like, hey, I think I need to go, or something like that.
Yeah, we're obviously always on Discord, and yeah, I remember you were saying something along those lines of you're going to go for the move here, so I stepped out of it early enough to make sure it was a safe pass, yeah. All right, well,
Okay.
that's that move, and now we go a little bit later, and I believe this is the unfortunate point of the race for me. So let me start this replay up and let's look. Okay, so here we are on board with myself, and you're right in front here. So I'm in 3rd, and just going a little wide through 6, getting on the grass, but getting it back on the tarmac, and losing 1 position, maybe 2. I would assume somebody's right next to me at this point as well, because it was such a tight field. But from what we can see in this onboard, it looks like I'm in 4th. So through all that, looks like I managed to just lose 1 place. We do have somebody coming up behind. I can see in the camera there, going to my left-hand side and just kind of shoving me. And unfortunately, it made me into a bowling ball, and that other purple Mercedes was the pin. So losing quite a bit of time here, obviously. Now we can see me trying to get back on track and immediately diving into the pits to get the car repaired. And this is on lap 13, so, you know, luckily it's not lap 2 or anything, but I think at this point, it's safe to say that I'm going to have to do at least 2 pit stops, while other people who fuel saved may have been able to get away with just 1. But anyways, these things happen. You know, it's a league. We do this for fun. Don't take it too seriously. So I don't know. What did you think about that incident?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty clumsy incident from the other driver, to be honest. Just a little bit of lacking awareness in the situation. But I do remember telling you immediately, you know, dive in the pits, because it pretty much locked you into doing a 2-stop. But if you did commit to that and actually, you know, just push the whole way through, you know, do the 2 stops and don't fuel save, I had a feeling, you know, you were going to be able to come back at the end. So I think, you know, at least it cemented that you needed to do that strategy. And, you know, the race is not over till it's over.
Right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I know this incident and following pit stop here put me definitely well outside of the top 10, but we'll see what happens a little bit later on. So, I've got the next video here on lap 20, and here I am again, somehow managing to find a battle on track even after that incident, diving down the inside of 10A just to show everybody that I know how to do it too, right? But I think it was a nice clean overtake there on this BMW ahead of me. I'm not sure how serious this pass was for position at the end of it, because I don't know what sort of pit strategy the BMW was on there. But I knew that the only thing I could do, like you said, was just go flat out for the rest of the race, commit to a 2-stop, and see how everything played out. So that move done on lap 20. We will now skip forward to much later in the race, lap 35, and I think this was a pretty good moment for me. So this is a Mercedes, and it was hard to see in the other video, but this is in fact the Mercedes that hit me off going into 10A at the beginning and caused that whole ensuing collision. So, you know, I think it felt really good. I remember being on the radio with you and I think kind of screaming my lungs out, being so happy that I repassed him just to show him that I would have been faster and there was no need to try to fight me at such an early point in the race.
Yeah, you know, and executing it cleanly, you know, that was a big plus. So, you know, it's good to show the proper way to do it and also show, hey, you know, kind of ruined the race for both of you guys.
Yep, exactly. So anyways, I did manage to make up quite a few positions. Those were some of the highlights, and we'll move on to the very end of the race here. So I've got the next clip pulled up here, and you can see there's you going into turn 1, and we have a shot just from the pit lane here, the start-finish straightaway as well. And look at all of these cars. This is going on to the final lap. We've got 4 cars going into the pit lane, making a last minute pit stop. And here I am, obviously having already committed to that 2-stop strategy. I'd made my second stop at this point, and I just get to zoom by and make up all those positions. And I think somebody was kind of close to me on the way out here, but at least I got 3, if not 4 people just heading on to the final lap because of those last-minute pit stops. So that luckily worked out for me. Definitely was a big benefit. And meanwhile, as I said at the beginning of that clip, we see you going on to the final lap and obviously not going to the pits, which means that you made it on 1 stop. So do you want to talk about how you managed that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much just like in Daytona, you know, just early enough in the race, deciding, okay, I have to commit to this strategy, and then just sticking to it, really, you know, and definitely executed it better than I did in Daytona. A little easier to save fuel here too, just because not quite as many straightaways, but still, you know, quite a few. So yeah, so going on to the final lap, I was fine. I still had just about a lap of fuel left, and I was able to do it on one stop.
Right. All right. Well, there you go. And we have one last clip here coming across the finish line, it would appear. Well, maybe not. So this is actually my onboard, my last lap. And we see a little bit of carnage and somebody gone off here in another Aston Martin. And we're coming through turns 6 and 7, and we see another Porsche stopped on the inside. That was actually also for position, believe it or not. And this Aston ahead of me is also for position, if I could get him. And we saw a little bit at the beginning of that clip, he had gone into the wall, so I wasn't sure how much damage he had at this point, if I should go for it into 10A, but you can see I'm not quite close enough, and I don't want to send a late lunge. I just don't think that's fair. I tried to make fair moves most of the time. Hopefully I have a good head on my shoulders for that. And we can see his car ended up not being too damaged, so probably would have been a bad idea to try to make that lunge, and probably wouldn't have worked out for either one of us. But still, so tantalizingly close to getting that one last extra position at the very end of the race. But, that happens, and I think I was still just so happy to have made up all those spots towards the end that I did. So, that being said, let's take this video off and get to the results. So after all of my incidents in that race, I managed to finish P6. So really a good recovery for myself. And you managed to make the one stop not only work, but give you the victory yet again. So another win for you at Road Atlanta. I'm sure that made you feel pretty good.
Yeah, it was a good one. And once I got out in the lead, and kind of saw what everyone else was doing around me, I felt pretty confident in that one.
All right, cool. So let's move on to the next round here. Round 9, Twin Ring Motegi. So, unfortunately, viewers, this is another solo run by yours truly. Olivier could not participate in this round. And we do have a few things to go over. Let's start, as always, with qualifying. So I managed another good performance in qualifying, getting the 3rd position on the grid. And let's take a look at the start. So we're coming up on the front straight here. And overall, a pretty solid getaway. Already sort of battling for 2nd position after starting in 3rd. And turn 1 is so dangerous here. It's so easy to just slide it a little too wide and sort of get on the marbles. And, that's sort of what happened to that Mercedes that's now behind me. So I think a good start by me. I was logical. I kept the car very settled. I didn't try to go too hard into turn 1 on cold tires, and managed to get a spot out of it up into 2nd place. So let's move on from that, though. A couple laps later, or a lap later, I guess, lap 2, we have another onboard here, and although I managed to get up into 2nd at the start, I definitely didn't have the pace to maintain it, and we see that here. So that Mercedes coming back around me, getting that 2nd position back that they started in, and me going back into 3rd position where I started. So I didn't fight it here again. This is lap 2. I'm not going to fight that. I knew the Mercedes had more pace, and I just wanted a clean, consistent race at this point. So I was not going to do a whole lot of battling. And that leads us to the last replay we have for this round. And this is on lap 14, actually coming into the pits, which that this was a big struggle for me, just trying to get in and out of the pits quickly. And we have this BMW behind me in the pit lane, right behind me, really. And this is a battle for 3rd place coming into the pits. And you can see we're stopped together, and eventually we'll both get away here, and we'll see if I manage to do enough to stay ahead. And still refueling. Quite a long pit stop, we should add. You know, it can take 20, 30 seconds, but here we go. Getting away again and just managing to stay in front of that BMW out of the pits. So, you know, it's not a super adrenaline-inducing replay here, but for me, you know, it was really a good moment where I was like, oh wow, you know, I can actually get in and out of the pits in a reasonable, timely fashion, because in other prior rounds I had lost up to, I don't know, do you remember we looked at one maybe, was it Laguna Seca? I lost like 10 or 15 seconds in my pit stop just because I was
Yeah,
too slow on entry and exit.
yeah. There's a lot of time, that you can give away, uh, you know, in the whole pit cycle. So it's definitely important to learn the braking points going in and also going into your pit box. That's one that people don't always consider.
Right. So, yeah, that being said, I was just really happy that I could get through without losing a position, and I ended up battling with that BMW to the very end. He was really pressuring me, but I managed to handle myself that time around. Stayed in front to the finish, and so that netted me my first podium of the season, which I can't believe you weren't there to celebrate with me, but anyways, so I finished P3 in that race, and I was really happy. And so now let's just quickly move on to the next round here, which again we were both in this time. Round 10 at Long Beach. You remember this one?
Yeah, I do. This is always one of my favorites when it comes up on the calendar.
Right. This was an interesting one, but do you want to talk a little bit, because I know this track is sort of your baby. Do you want to give a little background on that?
Yeah, I don't know if there's really much to say other than I just like, challenging tracks and technical tracks. I mean, this track is so technical, not just because of, the walls, which is a whole thing on itself, but just, the way the layout of the track, some of the corner sequences are very challenging to get all the time out of it. So, yeah, I always enjoy pushing hard around here.
Right, and definitely challenging. There's even some sort of like off camber and like bumps that you sort of just have to know where they are to take the right line around them. So it makes it really interesting, and all the more interesting for me because this was actually my first time driving the track. And you know, this was kind of a common theme. I think probably at least almost half of the tracks that we did this season were brand new to me. You know, it was a lot of learning new tracks and also trying to get comfortable in the car. But I don't think that it was a major disadvantage for me. And you know, maybe it was almost an advantage because it was sort of I had a new mentality, brand new mindset, just learning the track with this car so I could sort of maximize that instead of having, you know, brake markers in my head from a different type of, you know, a GT3 or an LMP2 car. But anyways, we'll move on here. We've got quite a few replays to go through, so I want to get
Okay.
started. We do have the start, so let's pull that up now. So we got the start of the race, and oh my goodness, I forgot to talk about qualifying, but it's pretty obvious at this point that I qualified in third position and you qualified in second. And that did
Yeah.
not last very long because we're going into T1 and you already took the lead. Uh, and you know, I'm also not too far behind, still in third. Not letting you get away too much at this point, but good start from you. You had a few of these where you just sort of, you know, timed it perfectly, and you know, is that something you think about a lot on the start? Is trying to really maximize that, or is it just sort of oh well, if you get lucky and you have a good start, you can jump a couple people.
Yeah, I think you always, just want to keep your eye on the P1 car because he's the one setting the pace. So I just try to gauge it off that. You don't want to be too greedy on the start just because it's almost a gentleman's agreement that you're not going to give a big gap to the car in front. Accelerate early before everyone else, and then hopefully time it right so that it goes green and you're already up to speed. I mean, it's just a little, it's a little unfair. I think everyone agrees on that. So if you can just kind of time it on the guy in the lead, that's what I usually try to do. And yeah, I mean, I had a big draft coming up to T1, so I just went for it. Whenever there's an opportunity at the start, I usually just try to get it done.
Yeah. Yep, that makes sense to me. I'm usually just kind of the conservative guy on the start. I just want to keep the car in one piece more than anything else. But yeah, either way, let's move on since I said we got a lot. So let's fast forward. The next replay here is going to be lap 8. And we can see here you are still in the lead. I'm still in third. We've got this Mercedes sandwich between us. Oh, dives up the inside and just clips you. And here we are, all stationary, traffic jam. I get pulled 180 degrees, facing the wrong way now. Just major calamity. We're still both stuck at this point. I mean, it's been, at least 30 seconds. I veer off,
Yeah,
find a
what
corner to
felt
get
like
turned
5
around in.
minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it felt like an eternity, right? And there you go. You finally get turned around, and I get turned around, and now I'm still right behind you. And, nice enough that Mercedes that spun you around, you can see in the background here, he let off and he let you back by because he felt bad about the incident. But, for me at this point, I don't think it really mattered. I wouldn't have minded if he had just gone for it anyways. Like he doesn't need to ruin his race on top of that. This is just
I
a
agree.
league for fun after all, right? But I mean, it was a nice sentiment.
Yeah, I mean, I told him afterwards. I'm like, look, I know it wasn't intentional, so just go. It's fine. Like, if it's really that bad, that it can always be sorted out after the race. But I don't see a need to ruin your own race just because one mistake.
Right. Yeah. So that being said, we're going on to lap 9 at this point, just basically all the way at the back of the field, nose to tail. We're still together. You right in front of me, and this is when the comeback attempt started, we should say. So let's skip forward to lap 10 here, and we're on board with myself. And we can see you're still in front. You've gotten a bit of a gap already to me. But here you go, diving down the inside of somebody into turn 1 here, and me trying to follow along, not too far behind. But, it was kind of nice that I was sitting not too far behind you. I could see you making moves, and it just sort of gave me that extra motivation. Like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. If he can find a way around, I should be able to find a way around as well. So we're going through a lot of the lap here. We're probably basically halfway through the lap at this point, and this came in up ahead. I'm definitely, getting a lot of pressure on them, but not getting super close. But I'm getting the run sort of on the back straight here, and I think I can smell blood at this point. So I'm just gonna send her down the inside, but the Cayman brakes late, but too late. Completely misses the corner, and so easy enough. Job done, mostly, maybe. I think they were on the inside of me there, so I had to be careful. But just about made it around. Lost a little bit of time to you. Obviously, we can see from the beginning of the clip here again now that maybe you had buggered off another second or so by the end of that lap. But, both of us passing the car within the same lap, so not too bad. How are you feeling at this point?
Yeah, at this point it was kind of a blur. I just remember passing a lot of cars, so yeah, I wasn't really thinking about much other than just the guy ahead of me and closing that gap as fast as I could every time.
Right, Ayrton Senna at Monaco, right? That's the mode. So let's skip forward a few more laps. So lap 13, we've got another replay here. On board with me once again. Up in the distance, you are almost a tiny speck at this point, but you are going and diving down the inside of somebody at the end of the back straight. Not quite working out in your favor. You're still behind at this point, and all that battling is just sort of allowing me to close that gap back up to you, and you just get down the inside here, and you make that move work out. So now you're ahead of that Mercedes, but I'm behind, but not too far behind. So again, I'm like, well, you haven't gotten a huge gap on me at this point. If it was that hard for you to pass the Mercedes, it'll probably be tough for me to pass them, but it should be doable at some point. So we go into turn 1. It seems like I did pretty good through T1 most of the time. That did come back to bite me. We'll probably see that in a bit, but here it hasn't bitten me yet. So now I've pretty much closed up the entire gap. And we can see that there's some of that bumpiness. It's that corner, for me at least, that you have to have the right line, otherwise you can really get the car all out of shape. And then turn-in point, really crucial here. You see they turned in a little bit late, and it just allows me to close up that little bit more. And now we're coming back onto the back straight here. They get, again, a really bad run onto this back straight, and I got a pretty decent run, as per usual. So now I'm going to attempt what you attempted on the previous lap and dive down the inside here. And we'll see, is there enough space? Are we side by side? Nope, I've just nipped in front at this point. So there we go. Now we've both cleared the Mercedes, and I'm still not too far behind. So, I don't know if you were, just in the zone like you said, but for me, it was like, I'm still clinging on to you, not letting you get too far ahead. So I don't know if you ever looked in your mirror and you're like, oh wow, Quentin's not doing too bad.
Yeah, for sure. I remember looking and telling you, like, come on, like, let's keep going. I felt like we were working together pretty good.
Right. Okay, so a few laps later again, lap 16. On board with me, not too far behind you, and this is just where I lose my focus into turn 1, almost crashing into you. I think it was sort of bound to happen. It was just like a mental challenge for me. As we got later into this race, it was like, man, we're trying to recover. I'm trying to push the track, but I'm still not that used to it. And I basically just missed the braking marker. I didn't, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't think we were that close to T1 yet. Super amateur rookie mistake. I will definitely admit to that one. Luckily, I did not go into the back of you. That would have been really bad. But just managed to avoid you and get back out and maybe not lose too much time. But now I had to maybe repass a couple cars that I had already passed with you before. So that being said, we'll move on throughout the race. We're on to lap 21 in this next replay coming up. And this is on board with me, and so it took me that long, so that's 5 laps, and I finally caught back up to this Mercedes that I had passed on, lap 14. So, you can see it's a lot of wasted time when you have a big mistake like I did, but it tended to happen quite a bit to me this season. Luckily, I managed to scrape through a few races without too many big mistakes like that. And in this one, I was able to luckily catch back up and repass this Mercedes. So not too much damage done. But we will see now a lap later. So this next replay is lap 22. And this is from my perspective. And so we have going into the final corner, coming out, and I just basically had that where if you watch the part 1 video, we talk about it a little bit, I accidentally hit my pit limiter button. So I fell foul to a mistake somebody else had made earlier in the season. Luckily, nobody crashed because of it. But it meant that Mercedes I had just passed the lap prior got side by side and just about got in front of me again, and then I luckily dove down the inside at T1 and made that pass stick yet again. So a much longer battle than I wanted with that Mercedes, obviously. But I don't know. What do you think at this point?
Yeah, at this point in the race, honestly, I don't even remember what I was thinking. I think the race was pretty spread out, but yeah, no, this was a nice move that you executed again.
Yeah. Well, thank you, good sir. I do try. Especially after I make a mistake, I kind of want to make up for it. So hopefully I did there. But anyways, we'll move on now, and we're getting to the last replay we have, lap 28. So this should be very much near the end of the race. And we're actually on board with you, and you are stuck behind a fellow BMW for once. Not a whole lot of BMWs were in this league. But you did manage to find one, and you were battling for position here. And definitely towards the end of the race, we see you trying to go around the outside here, but it does turn into the inside, so that works out. But you're still next to each other, side by side, going into the final hairpin here, trying to leave each other enough space. Ooh, and he just clips you and turns you around again, and I'm sure that must have been pretty frustrating on your end, right?
Yeah, of course, when it rains it pours. I feel like when things go wrong in the race, you know. So once again, I mean, it was just like I couldn't believe it because I gave what I thought was more than enough space. I knew he was on the inside.
Right.
I know it's a clumsy corner, so it is what it is. Again, nothing that was intentional by the other driver, but doesn't make it any less frustrating.
Right. Yeah, I think you make a good point. We should specify that there was no malicious intent, obviously, in any of these incidents during this round. Really, it was just the track is tough, and you can sort of see he did try his best to take it really easy and get as inside as he could here to give you space. But it's just he's going so slow that the car won't turn, even though he was probably full lock at that point.
Yeah, he lost rotation when he slowed down that much,
Yeah.
and that was pretty much it.
And we can see, so you get back going again pretty quickly here. He goes into the pits with damage, and now here I am way in the back. I'm a tiny speck, but that allowed me to sort of reduce that gap back down a little bit to you, where we had obviously been a lot closer together towards the beginning of the race. So that being said, that finishes off all of our videos for round 10, and we did end up, let's see, myself in fourth and you in third. So through all of that, through all of the mayhem and mistakes and let's say a series of unfortunate events, we still both only ended up one position further down than we started. So not a bad turnout as far as the results go. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Picking up the scraps and ended up being a good haul of points.
Right, and that's something we probably don't talk about too much either. But sometimes we have races, and you'll see at least myself making a lot of mistakes, and you getting into quite a few incidents. But what we don't talk about is that in those rounds, usually they are very much races of attrition. And if we're having trouble, it probably means a lot of other people are too. And I remember in this race, we did have that where probably half the field had a pretty bad incident at one point or another. So not a whole lot of people had a clean race. And I remember the pretty much just the winner of the race was like the only guy who had a trouble-free, incident-free race. But anyways, we'll move on now. So that was round 10. Moving on to round 11. That was Silverstone. And I don't have too much here. We'll start off again with qualifying. So you qualified in pole position. Meanwhile, I qualified right next to you in second position. And I think I remember this round, and I was extremely shocked at our qualifying result because
Yeah.
even in the practice session right before qualifying, I mean, you weren't even near the top. You were maybe in the top 5, and I was like, I think like 8th on pace in practice. So I don't know if a lot of other people just made mistakes in qualifying because I don't think either one of us went that much faster in qualifying than practice. But it was quite a big shock.
Yeah, I think we were both pretty surprised by that, but hey, we'll take it, right?
Exactly, we will take it, and so we did. Um, That being said, I do have a replay of the start of the race here, so I'll pull that up. So here we go. We can see you on the inside and me on the outside, and this is, of course, the sort of legacy older layout of Silverstone, not the current one that F1 drives on or anything. Parts of it are obviously, but it's just an older layout. And we see going through turn 1, you've already gotten a sizable gap here. Meanwhile, I'm back there defending for my life because I'm already getting attacked through these S's, and I don't know. You know the names of these corners probably a little better than I do.
Maggots, Beckets, Cops. I think those are all the ones I know.
There you go, something like that.
There's Brooklyn. I don't know, a bunch of British names.
Right.
um, oh, that's the Hangar Straight. I know that.
All right. So we get to the end there, and luckily the guy that was hounding me made a mistake. So going in, we have this pretty sharp left-right sequence coming up here. And luckily that meant I didn't have too much pressure on me going through these corners. And I wasn't letting you get away from me too much on the first lap here. So you see that we're still pretty close. There's like a 3-car battle behind us for third position and a huge wreck further down the field. That being said, we're still focused on ourselves. And I think, at this point, I'm still in complete disbelief of what is going on. Seeing you ahead of me leading and me just right behind you in second, and at this point, not even having that much pressure on either one of us. It's just like, wow, we could pull this off. And you had won quite a few races already, so probably for you it didn't feel too strange. But definitely for me, I think I had just gotten one podium in the entire season so far. So it was weird being in such a high up position in this field. I just wasn't used to it. Any
Yeah,
thoughts?
definitely a good run for both of us to start the race.
Right.
I mean, I always feel better if you're right behind me or if you're in front of me, just because I know that, as a team, we're doing well. So
Yes, and I have been known to defend like a lion on occasion, and so have you. So
some say, indeed.
yes, yes, indeed. So, anyways, we don't have a whole lot of replays. We only have one other replay to share, but essentially, this race turned out to be quite boring in a good way because we mismanaged the pit stop strategy, both of us, a little bit. So basically, one person managed to get ahead of both of us through pit stops alone, and then they also just had much better outright pace than either one of us. So they just flew away. But when we came out, we were still hanging around second and third position. And when it came down to it, I think I had a bit of a gap. I actually got by you through the pits because I had maybe conserved fuel a bit better. So I came out in front of you. You closed down the gap eventually, and you got on my tail towards the very end of the race. And that led up to this next replay, which is the final lap of the race. So here we're starting the last lap. We can see me. So I'm in second place. You're in third place here, going a little bit wide in T1, but didn't lose you too much time. You're still right behind me, and we do have a purple McLaren in tow, who is also battling with us, really. So it's second, third, and fourth. So a 3-car battle for second place here. Coming through, and luckily I felt this lap wasn't super long, so I knew that I only had to defend maybe 2 or 3 places and 2 or 3 corners because there wasn't that many overtaking opportunities. What were you thinking at this point?
Yeah, I just was worrying about the guy behind. I know, I think he closed up a little bit towards the end. But I also didn't want to just give it to you, as we
Yeah.
see here. So, I'm gonna make you fight for it. I think that you had a well-deserved place ahead of me in the race, so I wasn't gonna take any kind of crazy lunge, to try to get that place back, because you did deserve that spot. But yeah, I also wanted it to still be a good race and try to keep the guy behind us.
Right. I do remember most people had done better on their tires at this point, and I remember my tires were completely dead, and you told me that you were going to make me fight for it, and I was like, oh my god, I don't think this is going to work out for me. But maybe it was a little bit of luck that the McLaren was there too, just to take your attention off of me a little bit. And so we're going around the final corner here. You think about sticking a nose in. I immediately defend the inside there, saying, no way, Jose. And we cross the line, whatever that is, like 100th apart. And I just finished a nose ahead of you. So, great little last lap battle here. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did.
Yeah, yeah, that was a fun battle. That was one of our, I think that might have been one of our only like end of race, battles for position. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. And it was really nice to have that. So that being said, obviously we finished in second and third places respectively. Double podium for the team. I think that was our first double podium of the whole season. So really an outstanding effort. And like you said with the previous round, another good haul of points, really.
Yeah, I mean, as I feel like the key to the season was just consistency. Even when we had bad races, we both were scoring some pretty good points, so that paid off.
Right. All right. That takes care of that. And that takes care of round 11. Moving on, round 12, Mid Ohio. This was another pretty good one. Let's start off with qualifying again. So we had, hmm, I'm not exactly sure because I have us both noted down as qualifying P6 for this race, which obviously is not true. But either way, one of us definitely qualified in sixth place, and we'll probably find out from the replay where the other one started because we do have a video of the start. So let me get that going now.
I think it was
And
me who qualified sixth. Yeah,
right,
so we were fifth and sixth. Yeah.
yeah, right. So we qualified right next to each other again, albeit further down in the field than last round in Silverstone. And we can see you getting in front of me here. And I remember, watching you right in front of you thinking, oh boy, he's getting real aggressive so early in the race. And as I said before, I feel like overall I just took a much more conservative approach. I really just wanted to get through lap one, whereas I feel you just more comfortable with race starts overall and just sort of going for it and trusting the drivers around you.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I always try to, if I can make up spots at the start, do that. I feel like maybe I have some good practice doing it because I typically qualify lower than I feel like my actual pace. So, I'm usually playing catch up at the start. But, also racing with the same group of guys every week, it makes it nice because you can trust people. You can do some nice aggressive moves and know that this guy is not going to, you know, screw both your races up for the most part. Obviously, mistakes still happen.
Right. So, anyways, that being said, we're actually getting to the end of the lap, so this looks like it's pretty much at least an entire lap of footage here. Oh, and you're diving down the inside and a little bit of rubbing, a little bit of wheel banging, and you came off worse there. So you were sitting in fourth, Now you're back down in 5th. I'm still in 6th place right behind you here. So now we're going on to lap 2. You're sort of hanging it around the outside of this BMW, and it looks like you're kind of making it work. We got 3 cars ahead going 3 wide into T2, and we can see that did not work out for them. We have 2 cars going off, which immediately promotes you to 3rd and me to 4th. So what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I got lucky that my mistake ended up putting me in a good spot again. But yeah, I mean, dropping back at the beginning of that clip, and then suddenly, yeah, here passing for second. So it somehow played out. That was really lucky and unlikely that that would happen again. To be honest, that I would get so lucky with being pushed back by that mistake.
Right. Yep, you never know what's going to happen. I mean, these races got pretty wild at points, and you know, we show a lot of my mistakes, but that doesn't mean that other people didn't make mistakes, as we can see from this video. But anyways, yeah. So moving on, we ended this video with you making a really nice pass up into 2nd place, and me still hanging out, not too far back in 4th place. So we're doing pretty good at this point. And we'll move on to the next clip. And this is going to be lap 4. And it looks like you're still in 2nd place here, really hounding the leader. I'm still in 4th place, hounding 3rd place a little bit. And you guys go side by side through turn 2. And he just gets the better of you. So going onto the back straight now, and all over is just swerving, trying everything you can. You guys had a really hard battle. I believe this was Jesse Olsen, right?
Yeah, I think so. That's what it looks like. But yeah, this was a fun one. I've battled with him a lot, and yeah, that as we see here, sometimes we push the limits over each other, but it's fine. It actually ended up being okay. Um, and this group was so tight that I think everyone was going to be swapping places no matter what.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a fun battle, a long battle. We're still going here. I think we're going to go for quite a while longer, to be honest with you, because you know this was over probably 4 or 5 laps worth of you guys just duking it out for the lead of the race. And you know, you see coming towards the end of the lap, still just now top 4 here. Me bringing up the back of this 4 car group, but pretty much all nose to tail, line astern, and going through turn 1 once again. I mean, what is your sort of strategy at this point? I guess I ask you this all the time, but it's one of those things where do you have a specific strategy because of the driver in this scenario? Are you what are you actually thinking about here?
Um, I don't think I was thinking much about strategy. I mean, this race was not a race about fuel saving, uh, or even really saving tires too much. So yeah, I wasn't really thinking too much about that. This really felt more like a sprint race where we were just battling the whole time. I think everyone wanted to be in front of the other, and I think that makes it fun though a lot of the time, especially at a track like this, that you can make a lot of passes. And considering it's Jesse in front of me, it's a guy I know really well, battled with a lot, shared the car, endurance races. So I know how he drives. I know that we're both aggressive and we're gonna push it, but still be respectful at the same time. And we're just trying to have fun. I mean, yeah. See there, I think the fact that we are teammates sometimes we're not afraid to get our elbows out a little bit and try to get in each other's heads.
Right. Yeah, so now we've got like a 5 car battle at the front here because of all this fighting. And so now you've gone down to 3rd position. I'm still in 4th. And you're just cutting through the grass completely at this point and then go all the way back to the outside, going into turn 2 here. Trying to go maybe around the outside of the Aston, but that's not going to work out. I think yeah, it was from my view at least. I was like, oh come on guys, like settle down a little bit, would you? Because we were losing so much time, and it was a wonder that more of the pack wasn't with us at this point, because I just felt like every lap, at least 5 seconds. See, and here you guys go again into the grass, and I was just able to avoid Jesse there. And so finally we get, that's the end of that replay. And it ended up with, unfortunately, Jesse meeting his somewhat demise. Definitely that pushed him down the field a little bit, and myself still behind you. So let's move on now. Crazy battle that was. But on lap 10, we've got another replay. So this is you, and so you're still in second place at this point. You had to sort of chase this Mercedes down. I believe this is Justin Hall in the Mercedes, and looks like you're gonna put the moves on him. What are you thinking at this point?
Yeah, again, that was just I had a bunny to chase, so I put my head down and caught up to him. And yeah, I just really wanted to be in the lead at this point. I felt like it was in front of me for so long and I was so close and then it slipped away. So at this point I'm just like I want to get in the lead. I want to stay there. And that's that.
Right. Yeah, and you do a good job here. And then I remember I sort of asked you to do some extra defensive work, which you do to a very good extent. You stay side by side here, I think on purpose. You probably could have taken the lead by now, but you were doing all this side by side action just to allow me to sort of close that gap to Justin in the Mercedes as well. So we can see now I'm coming back into play in third place at this point at the end of that replay. But anyways, good stuff. You had gotten to the lead, and I think that's kind of how it stayed for most of the race. We'll skip ahead now, way later. So this is going to be lap 23, this replay, and we can see just coming on, going through turn one, and that same Mercedes, Justin driving that one, coming out right in front, coming out from his pit stop. I had pitted, I think, a couple laps prior. So now we're both done with pit stops for the entire race. I'm sitting right behind, but I'm thinking, oh, his tires must be a little bit cooled off from that pit stop. If there's any opportunity for me to get by, this has got to be it. So I dive around. I'm on the outside coming into this corner, and I'm just hoping he leaves some room. He doesn't pump me off, and he is nice enough. He's gracious. He gives me room, and now I have the inside here, but now he's got the inside for the next corner. So just a lot of side by side action and just nipping in here, and now I've got the line, and now I've got the position. He thinks about coming back for it there, but not really a good passing opportunity. So that was, for me, it felt really good. Justin, I think he's a really good driver. He's very fair. Gives plenty of room when you're fighting most of the time. And so it was just, for me, it was a big accomplishment to have a battle with him and come out on top, because I rank him at this point, at least, as somebody with a little bit more skill. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, I think Justin is one of the fastest guys around. There's no doubt he had probably more pulls than almost everyone else, combined. So yeah, there's no doubt he's super fast, super fair driver. I've had some great battles with him, and yeah, I think you can feel good about getting around him because it's definitely not an easy thing.
Yep. Anyways, so let's skip quickly. Last replay. We've got the end of the race. We've got you on board, and I'm just a few seconds back. You had cleared me, but not by too much. And so we're coming around the final few corners, and you slow down a little bit. There I am in second place, and we're coming across the line here. A little photo finish moment, flashing those headlights. Our first ever 1-2 finish, another double podium. That felt pretty freaking awesome. I don't know about you.
Yeah, that was a good one. I felt like the whole season was leading up to that because I feel like we both thought we had it in us, and yeah, to actually get it done, it was really nice.
Yeah, to pull it all together was, man, that was a special moment, and probably the highlight of the season, to be honest, for me at least. But yeah, so let's move on. That's the end of round 12. We've got two more to go still. Round 13, Suzuka. So this is another fun one. We've got quite a few replays to go over. Let's start again with qualifying. So I qualified down in 7th place, which wasn't great, but again, I think this was the first time that I had driven Suzuka, so trying to get to know the track a little bit better. You qualified in 3rd, so not too bad. That's about where you normally qualify, usually 2nd or 3rd. So not too bad to start it off. And let's get to it here, and let's take a look at the start. So here we are on board with you. And going for the start, we have a blinking driver in pole position. Love when that happens. You want to talk us through this a little bit?
Yeah, just another start. Trying to stick it on the inside here. We actually see someone drive around the outside of us somehow. So we both kind of wasted time there and end up losing a spot. Um, yeah, just trying to be as aggressive as possible, but still keep it clean.
I think at this point we can name drop Olivier. I don't think we need to, be too courteous. So we did have a friend of ours, JP, racing in this round with us. So that's JP ahead in the Aston, who was, I would say, a little aggressive at the start, getting around up to 2nd and putting you down in 4th at this point. But obviously, you're still keeping the pressure on, and I think this is Justin Hall again in front of you, who we see up at the front of the field all the time, of course. Coming into the hairpin here, and look at that, going for that little dive bomb. You think that was a fair enough move?
I think so. I don't know. I actually really like that move because I think it's like a textbook dive bomb that, in my opinion, it was done pretty much as cleanly as possible. Naturally, there can be a little bit of contact, but I think that as long as no one's losing a crazy amount of time or it's unfair, I think it's perfectly fine to bang doors a little bit. And I encourage people to race me like that too because I think that it's more fun like that, and it's nice to get your elbows out. I don't know how he felt too much about it, to be honest. Afterwards, I don't think he had an issue. It was definitely late. I'm aware that it was a late pass and it was a little bit aggressive, but I mean, I had uh, my bumper on his door, going into the apex, so I think I'm entitled to just enough room for the car, and he gave me that, but still a little bit of contact can happen.
Yeah, well, we're not too political on this channel, so if you want to stick it down the inside, feller, then feel free by all means. I think that was a fair enough
Exactly.
pass. It was nip and tuck, but we've got another very good pass into T1 here on JP. So that was,
Yeah.
I think just a really, really good run out of the hairpin there and onto the front straightaway. So after all of that, you ended up in 2nd place, which is one position up from where you started. So not a bad return on your investment there. Let's move on quickly to a little bit later. So lap 3, we've got another replay coming up here, and this was really a race of mistakes for me once again, as we'll see coming up here. But at this point, I'm sort of in the 2nd pack of cars. And you know what? I think I'm not even in the 2nd pack of cars here. I think this is already after I had made a mistake on the opening lap. So I'm quite far down the field at this point, literally tail end Charlie. Getting by one of the sort of back markers, repassing one of them at this point in the race. Not sure who that is, to be honest with you. But trying to make some progress. And so I did get a pretty clean pass here done, which, if that Mercedes had been taking the proper line, probably wouldn't have been that easy. But I was able to make it work. And then we've got a couple laps later, the next replay, lap 5. And here's you sitting in second place going into 130R. You want to talk us through?
Yeah, for this one, this was a pretty good run. I think I thought about it on the inside here, but yeah, I didn't quite have enough, so didn't go for it there. But just peeked my nose just to let them know that I was thinking about it. Yeah, definitely still hard though to pass around here. There's only a few real opportunities.
Yeah, but you get the draft going down the front straight here, pull into the outside, then sell the dummy, go back to the inside. And yeah,
There you go.
he
Get it
just
done.
he just outbreaks himself, and I think he ended up completely off the circuit at the end of that whole scenario. But nonetheless, you ended up in the lead, so feeling pretty good at this point, huh?
Yeah, yeah, that's also a move that I like to do sometimes is the dummy, go on the outside, make them defend the outside, and then just swing back around if you're not quite on their bumper yet. It's just one of those things, kind of setting them up for where you want them to go on the track, and then end up using it to your advantage.
Right. Yeah, I think it was a really good move once again. But let's move on. So this is probably a little bit later, but lap 5 for me. So I caught up to this sort of 4-car train. I mean, they're not all super close together, but we're not all too far apart either. And I'm just trying to make a recovery at this point. I'm much further down the field than 7th place. I'm well outside. I might be like 15th or something at this point. I'm just trying my best to make up a few places when I can. And we're coming into the hairpin here, and I brake where I normally brake, right? And yeah, that happens. So I wasn't really sure what went on. I didn't know if I was at fault for anything. I didn't know how to feel about it. But I wasn't going to stick around to find out. I just, if it was a send, it was a send. But I made it work. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit of a domino effect going into it, to be honest. You probably were going in a little bit deep anyways, but it happens. You can't really predict necessarily that these guys are going to break super early ahead of you. So I think it was fine. It was fair. I mean, obviously, maybe you pushed out the Porsche a little bit, but it wasn't malicious in any way. I mean, it just kind of happened, and yeah, it's just a racing incident.
Yep. Yeah, I basically just licked the stamp and sent it in that scenario, I think. But hey, I got whatever 2 or 3 positions gained out of that whole sequence, so feeling pretty good. So let's move on a little bit later. We got the next video here. Lap 8 again. So still behind a couple of these cars that were in that train. And let's see if I can try to slice my way past this Cayman up ahead. We saw your move down here earlier in the race, but you said, slice up the inside, but there was a little defense there, so no opportunity for me down the inside. Coming up here with a good draft, I'm thinking about peeking a nose in just to see, and he blocks, he defends like it's the last lap. We both outbreak ourselves. But no harm, no foul. We both outbroke ourselves. We didn't hit each other. It wasn't an incident or anything, and luckily I just outbroke myself a little bit less than him. So getting the position in the end. What do you think of that one?
Yeah, it's a good move. You got lucky that he also outbroke himself. Otherwise, that could have been a little bit of contact, but
Right.
it's fine. It's also on him that he outbroke himself and gave up the spot. So yeah, there you go.
Yep. So that's that. We've got one last replay from a lap later here. And okay, so here is that final car in that train that we started with a few laps ago. And this is actually the sort of owner of the league, Zane, who's a great guy, by the way. And we can't thank him enough for setting up and running this league, right, Olivier?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all really appreciate what Zane does. Putting on these races for a few years now, and really just doing it, out of love for racing with everyone week in and week out. And yeah, it's really nice that he's still putting in the effort and the time to be able to do this for us.
Yeah, so you know, huge shout out to you, Zane, if you are listening. If you do watch this video, thank you so much for putting this league on. We both have so much fun running in this league, and it gets me, out of the couch and onto my sim, which would otherwise just be collecting dust, to be honest. So, yeah, really thankful for that. But, anyways, let's move on now. That is going to be the end of round 13. We didn't have too much to show from your side, Olivier, because you made that pass for the lead, and then you never looked back. So you ended up with another win in that round. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was another solid race.
Yeah, it really was. And I fought back as hard as I could, and I made a recovery back to exactly where I started. So I finished in P7, which was my qualifying position. So, probably a lucky break for me there. But nonetheless, we now move in to round 14, the final round at Watkins Glen. Let's set the stage again. Qualifying. You elected not to set a time, which put you in a P10 qualifying position because there's actually like a few people, I think, that didn't set a lap time, right? So you didn't even start last. There was quite a few people behind you, right?
Yeah, I think so. It wasn't quite last, but it was still just at the break of the top 10.
Right. Meanwhile, I did my best and I qualified in third position. Not too bad of a result. And for this last round, I do remember it was again an hour-long race. So pit strategy would definitely be coming into play here. But that being said, let's start it out with the first lap. On board with you, starting in 10th position. So we can see coming into turn one here, you've got JP on your going down your inside, and then three cars going wide on your outside. So made up three there, lost one to JP, I think. So that's a net gain of 2 positions at this point. Coming up the hill now, getting hopefully a solid draft at this point. But quite a bit of space, and JP's obviously getting a draft from the car ahead of him as well. So probably no moves on here. You peek down the inside. What did you think overall of your start, though?
Yeah, I mean, just trying to capitalize on everyone being bunched up, um, and trying to make moves early. Because I obviously intentionally started in the back. I just wanted a fun race. Passing as many people as possible. So yeah, it was a good start.
Yeah, yeah, not too bad. We're going here. We're probably getting up to almost 2/3 through the lap here, and we see you diving down the inside of a Mercedes. So it's another position gain for you, and we can see you're I guess almost in the top five at this point because going into the next corner here, we should spot the leader, and then it looks like myself in second place. So I had a good start as well, got up from third to second, and that would put you third, fourth, fifth. So you're in sixth at this point. So yeah, just about to break into the top five if you get one more position. But let's just round out this lap, shall we? Just to give everybody a whole entire lap of Watkins Glen. Why not? Coming into the final corner here, onto the start-finish straight. And we'll get to the start-finish line right now. And so that's a whole lap. That's the first lap. And now we'll skip a little bit ahead to lap 3. So here we go, on board with you, lap 3, and I don't know exactly what's going on at this point. Looks like you have made up a position and passed JP, so now you're, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth, and now making another position up into fourth place. Meanwhile, I have inherited the lead of the race, and again, for me, a weird position. I did not lead a whole lot of laps this season. Let's just say I didn't even spend a whole lot of laps in a podium position. Um, but by this race, I think at least I felt comfortable enough in the lead that I wasn't just getting up there and making huge mistakes off the bat. But you were thinking at this point, what, just no fuel save and just sort of going for it.
Yeah, yeah. Again, no fuel save, luckily, and yeah, just able to actually race and try to make some good moves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's solid when you try, started from sort of the back of the field. Meanwhile, me starting near the front, I wanted to fuel save, so it was almost unfortunate that I was in the lead because it meant that I couldn't really do any fuel saving by just drafting off of other people. But anyways, we'll move on from that. So the following lap, lap 4, on board with you once again, going into turn 1. Behind the McLaren, the purple McLaren, I believe this is probably Dean. Going up the hill here, and it looks like I just had a very bad run through turn 1, which meant I had a bad run up the entire hill. So everybody's just ganging up on me essentially here, getting a run on me, you included, and then at the very end here, you just nip inside of the other two and get into second place right behind me. So, what did you think of that move?
Yeah, I thought about going on the inside of you too, but I was like, yeah, probably better not to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say I appreciate the honesty, and I also appreciate you not actually going for the inside there because I think that probably would have ruined both of our races. I don't think that would have ended too well. But anyways, we both make it through unscathed on lap 4 there, and you getting up into second place right behind me. Of course, it didn't take you long, so our last replay here, lap 5. It looks like, honestly, I think I got a better run through turn 1 on this lap than the last lap, but you were so close already, and you had the draft, and the draft is just so huge coming up the hill here, isn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean it'll pull a car right past you if you're poking the hole for them.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like the drafting force is very strong up the hill at Watkins Glen, stronger than maybe almost any other place on any other circuit in iRacing, I'd venture to say. Um, at least for the distance that it is. But anyways, yeah. So I think pretty easy move. I saw you coming through. I said go on through. I'll give you the space. And from there, we just kind of saw how our pit strategies worked out. So let's take this video down and we can just talk about it a little bit. Do you want to talk about how the race sort of ran through for yourself?
Um, yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly how this race ran through, to be honest. I think I ended up sitting out for a while in the lead. I don't know if I maybe pitted early or not though.
Yeah, so you did end up hitting a little bit earlier. You still had two pit stops. Obviously, you weren't able to conserve nearly enough fuel because you weren't even fuel saving for quite a bit of the time. Um, so you had two pit stops. However, there was one other driver, I think it was Justin, who he had two pit stops, but his second one was like going on to the last lap, and it was like a precautionary thing where he took maybe a liter of fuel. So, he ran through the pit lane, which slowed him down a bit, but he didn't have to wait 10, 15, 20 seconds for the car to get fueled up because it was the last lap anyways, and so he managed just to nip ahead of you because he had basically conserved more fuel throughout the race. You remember that?
Yeah, now I do. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, he got the strategy right, so he was able to execute it well.
Yeah, yeah, but I think for yourself, starting from the back of the field, coming through and initially not worrying about fuel saving, I think you still did really well overall. So you did finish in second position, not too far behind him. Meanwhile, I made a mistake where I entered the pits too fast, which then gave me a 40-second penalty. It was pretty brutal, and without that penalty, I was still, at that point in the race, I was still sticking basically with you in like second position. So, and I was better on fuel than you were, so it was looking pretty good for me to at least get a podium. I'm pretty certain that without the penalty, I would have gotten a podium. But these mistakes happen. I'm a work in progress. Let's be honest. It's not the car, it's me. But it happens, and I'm okay with it. I try to learn from it every time. That was the first time I ever had a penalty for that. So you live and you learn. And I ended up in seventh place. And that takes care of the last round. So we just have one last graphic to put up on the screen here. And it's just showing all of the stats. So I don't know. What do you think, man? It looks like 7 wins, 11 podiums, and you won the championship. How does that make you feel?
Good. Finally, I actually got to win one of them. I feel like all the other ones I did, I was kind of close, and whether it was misfortune or just an off race, I wasn't able to do it. But yeah, this time I was able to do it with some good domination to it, which was satisfying.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's no small feat. 7 wins. That is half of the races. That's quite extraordinary. And 11 podiums. There was 14 rounds, but I think you missed 2 of them, right? So you only raced 12 races, which means you got a podium in every single race bar one.
Yeah, definitely feels good when you look at it like that. And yeah, I mean, I think throughout the whole season, I felt confident, but also at no point did I feel complacent. So everyone else was pushing hard, and yeah, I definitely had to keep pushing to stay ahead.
Right. Yeah, yeah. You drove fantastically throughout the entire season. Um, it was a pleasure to obviously be your teammate, and a lot of the behind the scenes stuff nobody sees, but you would hop into practice sessions with me and try to give me tips a lot of the time on how to drive the car and certain tracks, just little tidbits and some really good advice that helped me a lot. And then I would see you go on and dominate most of the races, which was pretty cool. But I'm pretty proud of myself too. 3 podiums, 6 top 5s. I did every single race, so that's out of 14 races for me. But still, it's a lot of progress. We did do another season before this in TCR cars, and I definitely felt a lot more solid this season. Really getting the hang of my racecraft, getting comfortable in the GT4 car, and still managing to eke out just about a third place in the championship, which really isn't a bad result when you think about it.
Absolutely, I think you can be definitely happy with that and the progress because yeah, big improvements from the beginning of the season and even earlier this year.
Yep. All right. I guess that kind of wraps it up for our closing thoughts. Maybe future thoughts next year. I don't know if you've thought about it. what would you like to see for next season in the league?
Yeah, I've thought about it a little bit. I don't know what direction they're going to take, to be honest. I mean, the GT4 is a pretty kind of in between car. It's not like a rookie car, but it's also not like a, really experience based car necessarily. It's pretty in between in terms of speed, too. So I don't know. I mean, I think they might either go in direction of maybe something open wheel, even. Uh, Definitely spice it up a little bit. But I also think that they should consider maybe the new GR86 because I feel like that would be a pretty good car to race in the league. It's a little slower than the GT4s, but definitely more fun. Promotes a little bit better racing, and I think yeah, it would be a nice fresh start for everyone to start out in that car.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Honestly, though, I just think whatever we end up racing next season, I know it's going to be a hoot. It always is with this league. I just enjoy doing it so much. Just happy to be a part of it, and happy that we get to do it together. And hopefully next season I can do one better, finish second in the championship, right below you, and we can take that constructor's crown as well.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe you should aim for number one because
Yeah, let's not get too ahead of ourselves there. Let's take it one step at a time. All right, I finished third this season. Let's try just for one better next season. I'd be more than happy with that. But yeah, so that being said, thank you so much for being on and co-hosting with me again.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, we'll do it again soon. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, whatever holidays you enjoy. I hope you enjoy them well, and we'll probably see you next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, that's it. Bye.
All right. Bye bye now.